Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Wake and Take. It's your boy, Jason, and we've got some football to talk about today. It's Monday. You already know what that means. We've got some reactions to yesterday's action. It's going to be a good one, so go ahead and take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And disappointment fills the air as I bought a new Ethernet cable this weekend, hoping that would solve my lag issues. Apparently not. Apparently 300 megabytes per second isn't fast enough internet to stream on. Who knows? I don't get it. I don't understand it. Hopefully you can still at least hear me. And yeah, we'll just go ahead and move on. No sense in complaining, right? So, before we get into it, I always like to, of course, talk about the injuries. But, of course, before we talk the injuries, I've got to say good morning to you guys. So good morning to our fearless producer, Dustin Royer, who reminds us of our beautiful Wake and Take coffee mugs over at Zazzle. Go check those out. We've had 4 sales over the weekend, so thank you to everyone who bought a mug. Shout out Darnold. Shout out Mark. Shout out Jamie. Thank you all for joining. And if you're listening, thank you for listening on the podcast feed as well. Again, you can find that via the link in the description. Cool. Let's go ahead and get into this. The injury updates. Shout out John Adams working behind the scenes at PlayerProfiler. He compiles a lot of stuff for us on Mondays to send to all the show hosts and content creators. That really helps out. And a big part of it is the injuries. Players that returned from injury, players that got hurt, yada, yada, yada. Shout out John Adams. Dontavian Wicks, Thursday Night Football, concussed. Will Levis had a shoulder injury but did return to the game. Still fell short of the win but came back to the game. Devon Achane passed concussion protocol after leaving and going to the medical tent and was able to return to the game. Derek Carr had a hand injury, and it sounds like he's probably done for the year, but we'll monitor that. New Orleans is definitely cursed this season. The biggest injury of the day, or at least, I guess I can't say the biggest injury of the day, the most just kind of sad, was the Jonathan Brooks knee injury. He had a non-contact knee injury, I assume, ACL tear again. We'll monitor that. Very disappointing. You absolutely do not want to see that, not only for a rookie, but especially a rookie who just returned from tearing their ACL. We'll talk about Chuba Hubbard later in the show. Aiden O'Connell, knee injury. He is done for the year. We're going to get some Desmond Ridder action. Again, we'll talk about some of that implications later in the show. Bucky Irving had a back injury and had to exit. Same thing here. We'll talk about some of the Rachaad White implications and how good he looked yesterday as well later in the show. Hopefully Bucky Irving is able to return. Back injuries are very hit or miss. They could be, sidelined for weeks, or you could end up being out there the next week. Brock Purdy had a head and neck injury. You never want to see those. We'll be monitoring this over the next couple days. He did not return to action. Game was out of hand already anyway. So we'll see. Hopefully he is fine. And Demarcus Robinson shoulder injury, so maybe we'll get some Whittington. And then Justin Herbert did pick up a hamstring, but he is probably fine. Justin Herbert plays through everything, and of course did actually return to the game. So we're chilling. We're chilling as hell. So I do want to, before we get into our true reactions of the show, I do want to play an ad break. So if you guys could, please listen to the Podfather tell us about Fast Draft.
Oh, incredible news about Fast Draft. Fast Draft DFS is live. It's called the Flex 6 Frenzy. You just draft 6 guys, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends for the Sunday slate. You like Jahmyr Gibbs? You like Jackson Smith and Jigba? You like Tyrone Tracy? Draft him. And the beauty is you can just order 5 teams, submit your rankings, and Fast Draft will email you the results. We awarded $1,000 in prizes our first week, and we're just going up from there. Soon there's going to be a select 6. No drafting at all. You just pick any 6 guys. Our DFS mantra, just say no to salaries on Fast Draft. Don't forget there's free tools on Fast Draft too. You want to get ready for startup season? We've created the best Dynasty mock draft experience there is. And if you want to play in these DFS contests, and our best ball contest for 2025 are coming very soon too, just use promo code PODFATHER when you deposit and you get a free draft. It's that easy. And you're like, oh, I already have Fast Draft. Great. Refer a friend. Have them put your username in as the promo code, and then you and your friend will both get an instant deposit match up to $25. We got DFS. We got Dynasty Mocks. We got Best Ball. It's all there for you on fastdraft.app. Check it out. And the promo code is PODFATHER.
Use that promo code PODFATHER, or even better, use promo code Jason. and you will get a first deposit match up to $25. What does that mean? You can max enter that DFS contest we just talked about. So you have 5 max entries every week. That's $25. So go put $25 into Fast Draft using promo code Jason. You'll get $25 back for a total of $50. And that's 2 max entry weeks for the rest of the season, right? I mean, like, we don't have many more weeks. So highly recommend checking out the Fast Draft DFS. It's a ton of fun. Super simple stuff. You finish a draft in less than 10 minutes. It's incredible. So highly recommend checking that out and use promo code Jason. Let's get into it. We're just going to go game by game. I'm really bad. And shout out Dustin, by the way. Dustin, our producer, you see him in the chat here every morning. Just an incredibly hardworking guy, and knows his stuff as well. And I just have to apologize to him every week. I am so unorganized. I just kind of put a show sheet together. I could definitely do better at layering this in an entertaining way instead of just giving you my takes game by game. But that's for next season. So shout out Dustin for just being the man. Dustin Royer, what a king. So anyway, my first takeaway, and it's a takeaway we've had for a few weeks, and one that I actually did the rare conviction move on. I very rarely do, despite me saying a lot of takes. Sometimes I forget to act on those, but one I acted on was acquiring Brian Thomas Jr. I'm a big fan of Brian Thomas Jr. regardless of who the quarterback is, and I've been saying that for a long time. This week he had a 38.7% target share, and that's exactly why. Yes, only 8 receptions for 86 yards. Yes, no touchdown. But that doesn't really matter, especially for the cost that you spent to get him heading into the season, and especially late as he's lost a lot of steam without Trevor Lawrence. I am doing whatever it takes to get him in Dynasty. Whatever it takes. This is like the buying opportunity of a buying opportunity right now. Everyone is down on him, and there's honestly, I would say, zero reason to be down on him. In fact, negative reasons. Like, he's a baller. The Jaguars are not going to be this bad forever. And even if they are, he's just still going to catch a ton of passes. So Brian Thomas Jr. is a massive buy. And I just kind of want to make that clear. I've been kind of dancing around that take the last few weeks, just saying, like, yeah, Brian Thomas Jr., Tom Savage corollary, he's going to be fine. But, like, legit, like, get this guy on your team. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it takes. And I'm addressing this comment. Harry Snowman's asking what's going on with my neck scrub. I'm going through it. Currently going through it right now. I mean, like, I'm just... Keep me in your thoughts. I could care less about my appearance right now, to be honest. But I know that was just a joke, and appreciate all your support, man. But yeah, I just don't care about shaving right now. I don't know. Black nail polish too over the weekend. Just going through it. So I'm hanging in there. We're gonna finish this season strong. But yeah, definitely. I think that it's pretty clear where I'm at in the points of the season, week 14. Constant content. Constantly. Yeah. Next take. Tony Pollard. Guys, Tony Pollard, what did we say? Unfortunately, I was wrong in heavily investing in the Titans offense, but my number one take when I talked about the Titans offense was get that damn Tony Pollard on your team. I don't care about no damn Tyjae Spears. They brought in Tony Pollard for a reason. He showed a lot of steam in the second half of the season as he got healthier from his injury last year in Dallas. And I really did think that would translate and he would be better heading into this season. And we've seen that from him all year. And in this game in particular, 21 carries and 2 receptions for 124 yards. That's an awesome game. All we need is the touchdowns. There's just literally no other reason to not get Tony Pollard on your team. He's an incredible player. The Titans are utilizing him in a bunch of different facets. And they play the Jaguars again in the Fantasy Football Championship. I don't think it gets much better than that. Not only do the Titans play the Jaguars again in the Fantasy Championship, but they play the Bengals this week and the Colts next week. It's just incredible. It is lining up perfectly for Tony Pollard to end the season on a tear and help win a lot of championships. And so, if he's available, try to trade for him. If you still have him, fire him up, baby. This is great stuff. We love Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard season's here. And speaking of a season that's here, what, 6 weeks ago maybe? I could probably get an actual timeline. 7 weeks ago, week 7, the Colts. Tyreek Hill had 1 reception for 8 yards. And I came on this show the week after and put him in the market watch, talked about buying him. Said that Tyreek Hill is a sleeping giant. Since that game, 13, 12, 12, 19, 10, 20. And this week, 14 targets, 10 receptions, 115 yards, a touchdown, a carry, and a 30% target share. The sleeping giant's awoken. Tyreek Hill is incredible. And shame on anyone for thinking differently. To be completely honest with you, I don't know why so many people kind of gave up on Tyreek Hill earlier this season. Even like, I know that we obviously had the Tua injury, and that was why, like we were saying on here, right? Like, go get Devon Achane, buy Tua, get Tyreek, especially. And now we're seeing why, because he's just a game breaker. This was his first 100-yard game this season since week 1. And I just don't think it's stopping there. The Dolphins are really heating up. They're finding themselves in playoff contention. And Tyreek Hill's awoken. Touchdowns in 4 out of the last 5 games. So the sleeping giant has awoken. Shout out to everyone that heeded that advice and got themselves some Tyreek Hill on their team. And another player that I recommended buying last week, but recommended buying, was Davante Adams. And, well, did you? I have to ask, how many of you in the chat, how many of you watched last week's playoff buy episode and said, yeah, I'll buy Davante Adams? Because I was pretty confident in that one. And boy, is that paying off. We talked about mostly that the value isn't matching the production he put up recently. Over the last 4 weeks, not even including this game, he had over 40 targets. He had a 20-point game, was scoring touchdowns. It just, there was an air in New York and Aaron Rodgers stuff that people were just kind of fading Davante Adams and not really trusting him. 9 receptions, 109 yards, and a touchdown, 28% target share. Less yards than Garrett Wilson, but a higher target share. And more fantasy points because he got the touchdown. So Davante Adams, as we talked about last week, he's going to be a very big part of this Jets offense to end the year. And him and Aaron Rodgers are potentially riding off into the sunset together. And that's just going to lead to fantasy points. So I hope a lot of you bought Davante Adams. If you didn't, oh well, there's still points elsewhere. But I thought that that was a really fun one to get in on because of his age, because of the off the field stuff in New York. And this is why. And I mean, it's not going to stop here. So let's go with some Davante Adams. Shout out everyone who bought him. Shout out me for recommending the buy. And before we move on from the Jets, I do want to talk about the backup running backs, because heading into this game, a lot of us were very excited about what Braylon Allen would bring to the table, right? Braylon Allen, when we've seen him without Breece Hall, actually, we haven't seen him too much without Breece Hall, but it was pretty good. And he's been obviously awesome even with Breece Hall. So we were all expecting him to go out there, be a true bell cow in this game, and score a ton of fantasy points. And he didn't have a bad game. 43 rush yards off 11 carries, 4 receptions for 38 yards. You take that. No reason to complain about that at all. You take double-digit fantasy points every single day of the week. What you do complain about is Isaiah Davis splitting touches. 10 carries, 40 yards, 3 receptions, 27 yards, and he got the touchdown. In fact, almost had a second touchdown. And I got to say, I wish I was a little bit more upfront with Isaiah Davis. If you tuned into our Instagram start sit, I actually recommended starting Isaiah Davis to about 3 people. It was like, I mean, I'm going to be honest. It was, hey, do I start Isaiah Davis, Ray Davis, or Kamani Vidal? And I was like, throw Isaiah Davis in there. Who knows, right? Like, he was at least catching passes last week with Breece Hall active. So I wouldn't be surprised if he at least is fine for PPR. I didn't expect him to have as many carries as he did, though. And he's going to be a big waiver wire ad. We're not really sure the severity of this Breece Hall injury, but we know now that if Breece Hall's out, it's not one running back. And that is kind of maybe what we should have expected, because, like, we never really stopped to ask ourselves, like, hey, why are the Jets utilizing Braylon Allen when they have a stud in Breece Hall. Like, why aren't they just giving the ball to Breece Hall every time? And it's because they like having 2 running backs, which is understandable. I myself am a 1 running back guy, but, if you want to have a cycle, that's fine. And that's just the Jets system. And we kind of know it now. I mean, we kind of knew it all season. I just think that a lot of us, myself included, was just like, Braylon Allen's just that guy, right? Like, I was just like, Braylon Allen's good. He's proven it. He's got really good size speed combo. He's got really good vision. He's got quick feet. So that he just did so good that they were like, we've got to at least give him some carries. But apparently, while I mean, that can also be the case, apparently it's also just the Jets want 2 running backs. And Isaiah Davis looked just as good as Braylon Allen, better. And in fact, maybe even a little bit better. This was a player we talked about after the Senior Bowl that was pretty solid. I want to say he got injured at it, if I remember correctly. But yeah. So that's kind of my takeaway here is this Jets backfield is not necessarily a committee. I mean, it is without Breece Hall, but it is a two-back system. It is. And that's why Braylon Allen was getting carries. We got a hot take from Dustin here. Breece Hall traded during the 2025 draft. We have started hearing some rumblings. The only thing that this would give me pause for is just the fact that running backs carry no value on the market. I would assume that the Jets would probably just ride out his contract. What I like is what Dynasty Warzone said about Braylon Allen. They compared this situation to LaDainian Tomlinson and Michael Turner and said that Braylon Allen may end up leaving New York to be like a Michael Turner was for the Falcons somewhere else, which I subscribe to that. I do. I do think that it won't be Braylon Allen and Breece Hall forever. I do think that these are 2 NFL backs. Not sure which one's going to go where, if it'll be a trade, if it'll be the expiring of the contracts, but I do think that's an interesting thought as we, start putting on our dynasty lens. And speaking of a dynasty lens, what are we doing with Sam Darnold? I can't answer that question. You guys know me. I kind of been hating Sam Darnold all season. I've said multiple times, I don't buy it. At some point, he's going to turn back into a pumpkin. There's no way that he's turned his career around. But I mean, like, how many times can I say that before I'm just like, game, recognize, game? 347 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, both over 30 points against a vaunted Falcons secondary. That's like the one thing they're good at. Did not matter. Absolutely did not matter. Sam Darnold is really good in Minnesota. I'm still going to say that. I am a coach guy. You all know it. We've talked about it a lot. I think when you have a good coach, that really does make all the difference. And Kevin O'Connell is clearly a good coach and clearly develops a good offensive system that leads to quarterback success. So I still am not sold that Sam Darnold is on a Baker Mayfield trajectory where he can just go to another team and ball out. Now, can he go to another team with a similar system and ball out? Probably. So I'm curious what we're doing with Sam Darnold in Dynasty. I honestly still haven't decided. To be honest, I'm sorry. I don't want to say bye. I don't want to say bye, Sam Darnold, because I'm just not sure. I like to know what's in front of me, especially for my quarterback. And I think that his production, or not even production, I just think that his value, what it costs to get Sam Darnold right now is probably not worth taking that risk in Dynasty. If you have him, you probably hold him unless you can get, a first-round pick in Superflex. But otherwise, I feel like his value is a bit too high for my liking. Am I amazed by this? Yes. But I do still think it's very important for us to take a little bit of a pause and realize that it's probably not sustainable on another team. Probably. Could it happen? Yes. Yes, you should have bought when his value was low already. And admittedly, while I was off on him, we did recommend buying him still. It was kind of a two-way street here. It was I don't trust it, but his value's right. Now, I should have trusted it while also realizing the value was right. And I'm not trying to take away from what he's done. Sorry, Josh. I mean, you are right. I am kind of being pessimistic here, but I just don't know. Like, think about the teams right now that need a quarterback. The Raiders. Is Sam Darnold successful in Vegas? Probably not. Arguably the Seahawks, right? Like, do they want to commit to Geno Smith? Or maybe they like, hey, maybe there's a younger guy out there, like maybe we could see him succeed in Seattle. New York, give him Malik Neighbors. I'm going to say probably not. I don't think I would like New York Giants Sam Darnold. So that's just kind of where I'm at, is like, I don't know. I don't know. So I'm not buying him. But I am definitely coming around to just accepting that I've got egg on my face. I was wrong. And Kevin O'Connell's a stud. Truly. The Browns? You done with Jameis? Jamie's done with Jameis. I'm not done with Jameis. But I like fantasy. Stay rad, thanks. Yeah, shoot me some, although I'm sure I've got plenty already. But yeah, so as we talk about Sam Darnold just having, an unbelievable game. An unbelievable game. Kirk Cousins fucking sucks. Sorry for the language, but what the fuck, guys? I can't do this anymore. 0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions over the last 4 games. I think I could do better. I hate saying that. I don't actually think that I would be a good quarterback. I think I could go 4 games without throwing 8 interceptions. Now, could I throw the ball 5 yards past the line of scrimmage? Yeah. Could I throw it 15 yards past the line of scrimmage? Maybe not. And so maybe that's why I'm not throwing interceptions. But God, it's horrendous. It's horrendous, and it's over. And I knew it would be like this. You guys remember whenever, like literally the day after Kirk Cousins got signed, I went on here that morning and called it the most Atlanta Falcons move ever. And it wasn't just because Atlanta Falcons suck at making moves and that they're just like, trying their best to latch onto something. It was because I knew this would look good for a certain amount of time and then crumble, just like the Atlanta Falcons always do. Now, admittedly, like a stereotypical Atlanta Falcons fan, I was optimistic and said that it would just collapse in the playoffs. They would just lose in the wild card round and we'd look towards next season with some hope. But now they're not even making the damn playoffs. The Buccaneers have taken over the division now. The Buccaneers are probably not going to lose another game to end the season, as they've got, well, maybe to the Chargers, but 3 out of the last 4 games are very, very winnable. So I think it's over for the Atlanta Falcons. I think it's just time to put in Michael Penix. Will they do that? No. I see a lot of people on Twitter and just in general saying that Michael Penix is going to start this season. I really don't see it happening without an injury. I just don't. I just don't think that was the plan. Maybe week 18. But as far as our fantasy season is concerned, with the division being 1 game back, I just don't think they're going to do it. I just don't. And I just think at this point, they're more committed to just letting Michael Penix sit. I don't really think putting Michael Penix in helps him that much at this point. A little bit, maybe, but it could also hurt him just as much. Like Desmond Ridder, he came in right around this same time, his rookie season. I don't want to compare apples to oranges here, but he didn't really get to do much. He didn't throw any interceptions, which was pretty cool. That was why I latched on to him. But he also didn't really score many touchdowns until that final game. And, he wasn't really able to build upon that. Like we saw with Bryce Young, sometimes if you go out there and it's not the right time, you learn some bad habits and things go poorly. And you've got to get benched again. And so I just don't think it really is the right decision for Atlanta at this point. And as you guys know, I never wanted Kirk Cousins in the first place. I understood why, but I knew that this was not the right decision in terms of the Atlanta Falcons becoming a playoff contender. A 36-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles tear, who's literally never won a playoff game, is not going to help you win playoff games. It's pretty easy. but we love fantasy. And we're not even getting fantasy points. Like, Kyle Pitts, nothing again. Which, by the way, I made probably the dumbest decision I've made all season in a guillotine league. We'll get to that in a little bit later. But I started Kyle Pitts over Isaac Guerrero because it's like a super tight end premium. And you guys know I came on here on Thursday and was like, we're getting the Kirk Cousins revenge game. They're going to upset him. You know, we're getting 4 touchdowns. And so I was like, Kyle Pitts is going to have a game. No. And I almost lost in my guillotine league because of that. And my whole season would have been over. Guillotine leagues are very fun. I'm surprised I've made it this far. And I almost totally soiled myself with my Pitts love. God has forsaken me. Kirk Cousins sucks. The Falcons suck. And it's just time to move on to the Saints FTS. But I think, someone correct me if I'm wrong. Joshua Cho, if you're still watching, maybe you. I don't know. I think I was the only Kendre Miller defender. At least like publicly. I'm sure there are a lot of us that were like, you know, I'll still take Kendre Miller. But like, I legit, like, for some reason, I don't know why. I can't tell you why. But I did, for some reason, really defend Kendre Miller. Especially like in draft season. I was like, you know, everyone's like talking about handcuff this, handcuff that, and everyone's forgetting about Kendre Miller. And for the most part, it's not panned out. But 10 carries, 32 yards, and a touchdown. We absolutely take that. And this was just his first game back. In fact, I'm pretty excited to see 10 carries right behind Alvin Kamara. In fact, a higher yards per carry than Alvin Kamara. Not too shabby. And we saw Kendre Miller last season in the stead of Alvin Kamara when Alvin Kamara was injured. Put up a couple double-digit games. So I like Kendre Miller. And I don't give a damn what Dennis Allen said about him. Because he still made the roster. Like, I just don't understand why we latched on to that one quote so much as a fantasy community. His quote was verbatim, it's hard to make the team if you're always in the training room. But he made the team! So why did we care? He made the team. It was difficult, but clearly he made it. So he was the handcuff. And yes, it's not really panning out, but I just, you know, I hope we remember. Chuba Hubbard. League winner. Chuba Hubbard, league winner. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Pour one out for Jonathan Brooks. Looks like he has re-torn his ACL. And to be honest, I hate saying this. That might be the career. I don't know. I mean, obviously, like, yeah, medicine's come a long way, especially for athletes. But another late season ACL tear, you're now pushing his development back another year. When in college, it was already pushed back years because of Bijan Robinson. So to fight back from 2 back-to-back ACL tears, it just takes a certain type of athlete to be able to power through that, especially early in the career. So I'm very curious to see how this goes. I'm not going to lie. I might send out some feelers. See how cheap I could get them for. But at this point, I am not hopeful. Like, when I say what I would get them for, I would say maybe a third. Which is awful to even say or think. But, I mean, let's talk about what the case is here. Chuba Hubbard signed the extension. So even if Jonathan Brooks was healthy, we're talking about a split backfield because Chuba Hubbard's a baller. Now we're talking about the other side of a split backfield. And probably approaching Kendre Miller territory in terms of being a injury-prone handcuff that everyone decides to fade every year. So I'm terrified if I roster Jonathan Brooks. Luckily, I have 0 Jonathan Brooks shares. Just kind of fell that way. I'm not going to lie. I mean, like, it wasn't that I was happy about that. Like, I did want a couple Jonathan Brooks shares. I just never got any. I always went with Trey Benson, or Jonathan Brooks was sniped, or I went with like Michael Penix. I was a big Michael Penix drafter, big Bo Nix drafter. So I didn't really care too much about the running backs this year. And so I am thankful I ended up not getting any Jonathan Brooks. But like I said, it wasn't like I planned to do that. It just kind of happened. And yeah, I mean, I got to say, like Harry Snowman says, I mean, he's what, up the river with no paddle? And yeah, it's just like, it just takes a certain athlete. Not saying he's not a certain special athlete, but his road to redemption is very long, very tumultuous. And I would just rather have Chuba Hubbard. I mean, let's see. How many games has he had a touchdown or 100 yards? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games this season with 100 yards or a touchdown. Just, I mean, like literally just been a stud. And the first 2 of those games honestly shouldn't even count because it was bad Bryce Young. Now we got mini Patrick Mahomes back there, and it's awesome. He's the RB15 in points per game, Chuba Hubbard is. And he's officially a league winner. Curtis Martin asks what to do with him in Dynasty. Throw him in your IR spot. I don't think you can sell him. Unless you can get a second. I would take a second. If I had Jonathan Brooks, I would take a second. Single QB Superflex. Third, I might take a third in Superflex. Maybe. Depending on my running back situation. But mostly I would potentially try to flip him for a wide receiver plus. I would get out of running back area. You know, like there are some fun wide receivers that have ended their season. Rashid Shaheed. Hollywood Brown. Who knows what they look like next season? So that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, I mean, this is fair. Yeah, maybe sell next season. But like it looks like he's probably going to have like the Nick Chubb treatment where he, you know, lands on pup. Yeah, 3rd and 4th, just not quite enough. You're going to get a lot of these low balls. And I don't know. Like I said, I might send out some of those low balls. But I think if I had him, I don't think I would accept it. Just because it's like, you're hoping that 3rd and 4th turns into Jonathan Brooks, right? At the end of the day, even if he is recovering from an ACL tear now behind Chuba Hubbard. But yeah, like Harry Snowman said, someone will want to gamble on it as we get closer to the season. And who knows? I mean, anything could happen. Running backs get hurt all the time. Maybe, you know, Jonathan Brooks is the handcuff league winner next year. Who knows? Rachaad White. Rachaad White's season. Hey, it took an injury. Bucky Irving back injury early in the game, leading to Rachaad White to have 17 carries for 90 yards and a touchdown, and 2 receptions for 19 yards and a tutty. 2 tutties, 1 rushing, 1 receiving. We take that every single day of the week. It is glorious for us in particular. Literally only the Player Profiler audience is this glorious for, because so many of us were stuck with Rachaad White. And I don't think that was ever a bad thing. Obviously, we were disappointed, but he was still kind of giving points and still fine. But now, I mean, in the most important part of the season, he's back. Because of Bucky Irving's back. So that's exciting. We'll see how it goes. Again, back injuries can go a number of different ways. It's very likely that Bucky Irving just takes Toradol and plays next week. But just monitor it. I would not say acquire Rachaad White. I don't think that far, just because we don't know the injury thing, and maybe that is why you should acquire. Who knows? But it's cool to see. Just really good timing. A lot of us were stuck with him, and now we can actually trust him if Bucky Irving is out. And I do want to note, I think a very important note from this. If we rewind a few weeks back and remember when Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker took over the Buccaneers backfield when Rachaad White was out. Now, I'll say this. Obviously, they had the week to game plan. And that's why they were able to successfully deploy both Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker in kind of an even regard. But when Bucky Irving went down, Rachaad White out-touched Sean Tucker 19-3. And that's a thing that makes me go, And I think it makes me realize and remember, shout out Podfather, that Rachaad White is the 1A. I know that Bucky Irving has become the fantasy guy, but Rachaad White is the back. He has the size, and that's most important. And he's the one that they can trust if things go wrong and when it's important. Pass catching situation, short yardage. Running back goes down. Here's Rachaad. He's over 6 feet, 200 pounds. He's going to be there. He's reliable. So I just think it's very curious that Sean Tucker only had 3 carries. Now, he did have 47 yards off those 3 carries, which just shows that Sean Tucker really is an explosive running back. And I do think that he'll have more touches next week. I just thought it was very interesting. Incredibly interesting to me that Sean Tucker was barely utilized in this one with no Bucky Irving. Because we saw when Rachaad White went down that it was a split backfield for the most part. I mean, I know Bucky Irving still fairly out-touched Sean Tucker, but the yardage was very similar. So anyway, we're going to note that. We're going to put that in our brain. We're going to file it away. And this week, if there is no Bucky Irving, we are going to monitor the Sean Tucker Rachaad White split. And if it continues to be like this, then we know how the Buccaneers feel about Rachaad White and Sean Tucker, for that matter. Brock Bowers. We really had something. It was so special. Oh my God, Brock Bowers was having a special season. He broke the record this week for most receptions by a rookie tight end. Pretty cool. Still on pace to break the record for receiving yards in a rookie season by a tight end. Desmond Ritter's the quarterback. And I watched a lot of Desmond Ridder last year. Oh, and I'm terrified for Brock Bowers, guys. I'm terrified for Brock Bowers. He's going to be fine. This is not a sell by any means. Unless maybe you can get Trey McBride plus. That might be like the only tight end that I'd be fine downgrading to. But Michael Mayer, 7 receptions off of 9 targets for 68 yards, which, by the way, shout out, I did say to not drop him and to keep stashing him all season. Michael, and then Jacoby Myers, 7 receptions. Also, 67 yards, 27% target share. And the question will be like, well, Jason, like, Desmond Ridder came into the game. Do you think, like, you know, like maybe it was just Desmond Ridder has been practicing with Michael Mayer, and so he is going to lock on to Michael Mayer, and now has a week of practice, and Brock Bowers will be able to end the year with similar volume, and hopefully that's the case. You're still going to start him. And Harry Snowman's right. This doesn't affect him next year. I'm just saying, in general, to be cautious and maybe start to figure out a contingency plan. If you have, like, you know, if you've lucked yourself into a super tight end team, like, you know, you've got Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, it might be fine to just play Trey McBride. Maybe. Not this week. Let's see how it goes week 15. I do think he'll have more volume, right? I do think that this was partly, like I said, Desmond Ridder coming in and just going with what he knows. So he'll have a practice as the starter, installing a game plan, getting Brock Bowers more involved. But even then, it is still Desmond Ridder we're talking about. There's not going to be a lot of touchdowns. Not that there really has been all season. But there's just not going to be a lot of ceiling. Brock Bowers is very good. He's still going to have a floor. This is probably his floor. 3 receptions, 49 yards. And at the tight end position, you can't complain about that. It just sucks because literally last week we were calling him like a player that you need to target for the playoffs. He has a good schedule. Obviously you can trust him. You just aren't happy about it right now. And it just sucks. It just sucks. We'll see how it goes. Very curious to see how it goes. I just can't trust Desmond Ridder like that. Not after what he's displayed. It just sucks. And you know what else kind of sucks? Like, shout out Zach Charbonnet, but I am Zach Charbonnet's #1 hater. No one can take that from me. Not only Did he transfer out of Michigan? That pissed me off. But also, I'm the #1 Kenneth Walker fan. And so I kind of just can't like Zach Charbonnet. I just can't. But game recognized game, guys. 22 carries, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, 7 of 7 for 59 yards with a 23% target share as a running back. Game recognized game. I mean, I'm a hater. In fact, I'm such a hater that I'm going to say this isn't sustainable. It's not happening again. He lucked up to play against the Arizona Cardinals and find himself in a game script without Kenneth Walker where he was able to do that. When Kenneth Walker comes back, it's going to still be Kenneth Walker season, guys. Shout out Shaka Zulu. I'm Kenneth Walker's #1 fan and Zach Charbonnet's #1 hater. I can recognize game and say that was awesome of you to do, Zach Charbonnet. But you ain't Kenneth Walker. You are absolutely not Kenneth Walker. Yes, he did it week 3 as well. And when Kenneth Walker came back, Kenneth Walker took it all. Because Kenneth Walker is so much better. So much better. Now, I will say this. This is very helpful for Zach Charbonnet, the pass catcher. You know, like maybe they will take Kenneth Walker out for some of those screens that he's been getting. But yeah, I like it's Kenneth Walker. And I'm gonna remain firm in that. Just to show how much of a hater I am. But game recognized game, great job. And I want to talk about Ben Sinnott. And why am I talking about Ben Sinnott when I'm actually talking about Trey McBride? Because I don't think this situation is any different. Ben Sinnott. Trey McBride was a lot of people's favorite, absolute favorite rookie tight end prospect a couple years ago. Expected to be a stud. Great draft capital. Great landing spot. Great athleticism. But what the hell? Zach Ertz is holding him back? Dusty Zach Ertz? That must mean Trey McBride sucks. I've got to drop him. I should just sell him in Dynasty. If he can't beat out Dusty Zach Ertz, what the hell is his... What is his career trajectory going to be? Just a regular tight end? Like, do I really just want Zach Ertz again, essentially? Like 10 to 13 points a game? I guess that's fine, but I was really hoping for something special here. I'm going to move on from Trey McBride. Zach Ertz gone, absolute menace, absolute stud. Tight end 2 in Dynasty, arguably tight end 1. Brock Bowers, I think, really only has it because of age. Because, I mean, you got to think Trey McBride is doing this with an awesome rookie wide receiver on the other side. 14 targets, 7 receptions, 70 yards, 37% target share. Incredible stuff. Why do I say get Ben Sinnott? I actually disagree with what the Harry Snowman here, and that's very rare. Harry Snowman and I are very often on the same wavelength here. Ben Sinnott has hands for days. In fact, he has hands for days because he was a basketball player his entire life. He didn't start playing football until college. And he started playing tight end. He not only has incredible hands, because of playing basketball, he's got incredible footwork. You can see his 3-cone drill and really all the agility drills at this year's combine. And then also, if you go look at Ben Sinnott's production last year at Kansas State, particularly against Texas, you'll see that he has a clutch factor. Ben Sinnott's a stud. He's going to be a stud. And he's in an incredible, incredible landing spot. Washington Commanders tight end. I mean, when Zach Ertz is gone, you're talking about Ben Sinnott being attached to Jaden Daniels for his career. This is Trey McBride, Kyler Murray, Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson, Kylan Granson, and Anthony Richardson. It's awesome stuff. It's, oh God, who was the Greg Olsen, Cam Newton, you know? So get Ben Sinnott while you can. Get Ben Sinnott while you can. Seriously. I can't recommend it enough. And hey, we talked about starting Cooper Kupp this week. I mean, obviously that's a gimme, but I just like to remind people like, hey, you've got to remain firm and confident and convicted in your studs. And yeah, Cooper Kupp had a bad game last week, but a bounce back game against the Buffalo Bills was definitely on the menu. We called 100 yards and a touchdown. We were close. He had 92 yards and a touchdown. So we'll take it. Little disappointed he couldn't get 8 more yards to make that more clippable. Now I can't post that to TikTok. But that's not my take here, because my take is Puka Nacua, guys. Holy shit. Good Lord. Good Lord. 47% target share? 14 targets, 162 yards, a touchdown, 5 carries? Insane. And it's really not stopping there. When we saw Puka Nacua return, he literally looked like he had been surviving in the wilderness for months. Grew out his hair and beard, looking like me. And he's just bawling. Absolutely bawling. Got re-injured and didn't even care. Playing through it. 47% target share. With Cooper Kupp healthy. And I swear, the hairy snowman. Because my next thought is, what is the deal? What do we do about Puka Nacua in Dynasty? I looked at Keep Trade Cut this morning. He is the Dynasty wide receiver 7. And if I were to say to myself, yeah, that's the top of his market. And generally, when I say a player is at the top of their market, I say to sell. I can't say that about Puka Nacua. I cannot say that about Puka Nacua. He's a stud. And in fact, like I just said, wide receiver 7 in Dynasty might be a ceiling, is probably a ceiling. It also really might not be. I would not be surprised really with, at this point, what we have seen from this player, I would not be surprised if 2 years down the line, he is in that Justin Jefferson tier. But I mean, wide receiver 7 is right around there, right? I mean, it's not like that different. And this question, is Puka Nacua a product of Matthew Stafford or a product of Sean McVay? And I don't think that this is mutually exclusive. I think it's both, and simultaneously, neither. I think a lot of things are true in this. I think Puka Nacua is a stud. I think Matthew Stafford's a stud. I think Sean McVay's a stud. And so I just think a lot of great things are working together here. To answer your question, I do think he's more of a product of Matthew Stafford. And I'm going to throw Cooper Kupp in there because mentors are important. Then he is a product of Sean McVay. I am and always have been a big Matthew Stafford fan. It started years back. It was like an interview. And Aaron Rodgers was asked, who's the best quarterback in the NFL? And Aaron Rodgers, you got to listen to this. Aaron Rodgers said Matthew Stafford. And this was like 10 years ago or something. I don't know. It was when they were division rivals and the Lions sucked. And Aaron Rodgers was just like, dude, what Matthew Stafford does on a consistent basis is unlike anything I've ever seen. And, that's a thought that's echoed by players like Patrick Mahomes even. Like Matthew Stafford invented the no-look pass. That's something that's forgotten about a lot. This is a player that has just been consistently disrespected because of what happened in Detroit. And luckily, he was able to turn that around in Los Angeles alongside Sean McVay. But yeah, I do think that both Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, for that matter, are massive parts of Matthew Stafford's success. Because Cooper Kupp doesn't have 2,000 receiving yards and have the triple crown with Jared Goff. Even in the Sean McVay system, we saw success with Cooper Kupp and Jared Goff. We've seen success with Amon-Ra and Jared Goff. But could you imagine if we had Amon-Ra, Matthew Stafford? It would be better. And so, yes, I do think that Puka is slightly a product of Matthew Stafford. Yes, I think that Puka Nacua is partly benefited by Sean McVay being a master route creator, designer, play caller. And I also think that Puka Nacua is a stud. So, here's how we're going to navigate this. Jason, how do you feel about Puka Nacua without Matthew Stafford? Well, I don't feel great. However, I do feel good in Sean McVay and a potential succession plan. I think Matthew Stafford's there next year. I want to say he has 2 more years on his contract. In fact, let me double check that. But I want to say there are 2 years left on his contract. And I don't think Matthew Stafford's done anything to make us think he won't play those final 2 years, especially with, a lot of the quarterbacks playing to 40 now. Yeah, they do have an out after the season. They're not going to take it. He is under contract through 2026. So that gives them 2 years, right, to figure this out. There's a former UGA quarterback right there behind him, Stetson Bennett. Definitely not as good as Matthew Stafford, but still plenty of time to develop him. But also now, probably 2 draft classes to try to find a quarterback as well. Sam Darnold. Maybe they just want Sam Darnold after Matthew Stafford retires. Either way, I just don't think that Puka Nacua is a diminishing dynasty asset. Will there be waves? Yes. I'm sure there'll be another buying opportunity for him at some point, right? I mean, that's kind of how it goes, whether it be injury, whether it be fear of the next quarterback. But at this point, I am confident that Puka Nacua is a stud, will be good when Cooper Kupp retires, and will be good when Matthew Stafford retires. And it's a sum of his parts at the end of the day. And so those are my thoughts. Very eloquently displayed thoughts on Puka Nacua. And I think we can probably all agree. And so I saw a question in here. Who would you rather buy high on? Malik Neighbors or Puka Nacua? And that's a fantastic question. Man, that's a fantastic question. Let me get the exact values here. So Malik Neighbors, Dynasty wide receiver 4. Puka Nacua, Dynasty wide receiver 7. And yeah, I would rather buy Puka Nacua right now. I would rather pay the price for Puka Nacua than Malik Neighbors. I think that they are both fairly similar in terms of the fantasy points that will be put out. Will Malik Neighbors be this Jamar Chase type superstar that just everyone loves? Probably, but he's at wide receiver 4 in Dynasty. I just think that he's not passing. He could, I guess. He could pass Amon-Ra, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, but it's pretty unlikely. Whereas Puka Nacua, I think that there is a case where he could pass Nico Collins. He could pass Malik Neighbors, maybe even, depending on how things play out. So I would say, well, but age plays. It's tough, but I think I'm going to lean Puka. Because I think we also kind of have to deal in 2-3 windows in Dynasty. I think if we zoom too far out, it gets bad. If we look at a 10-year lens, we're probably yeah, give me Neighbors. But I think we should do a 2-3 year lens, and I think in that case, it's a Puka. And okay, so I mentioned that I'd talk about this again. Guys, if you're not in a guillotine league, you've got to join a guillotine league. Exhilarating stuff. You have no idea, if you're not in one, just how exhilarating and painful it is. However, I haven't felt the pain yet. I haven't been eliminated yet. I'm only in one guillotine league, and I'm trucking, baby. I'm trucking. And a massive part of that is Josh Allen. I've just bit the bullet. I said, I am playing in a guillotine league. There's one thing I want, and that is Josh Allen. That's all I care about, you know? If I am playing in a guillotine league, I will do whatever it takes to get Josh Allen. In fact, I've got to pull up the draft. I want to say, this is single QB. I think I took him in round 2, which was pretty high for his ADP at this time. My draft strategy in this in general was either I'm eliminated week 1 or I lasted a long time. And that was my strategy the whole time. I blew all my fab in the first 2 weeks. Yeah, hold on. Let's see. League. I've got to see this draft results. When did I take Josh Allen? Because I am curious. Yeah, round 2. Took him in round 2. We take that. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes went before me, so I guess I can't say I was bold and started the QB run, but I was just looking at the board there. Jalen Hurts, Travis Kelce, Chris Olave, Mike Evans, Jalen Waddle, James Cook, CJ Stroud, Lamar Jackson, Nico Collins, and I just said, you know what? You've just got to give me Josh Allen. I've gotten trade offers for Josh Allen in this guillotine league. Good trade offers. I was offered Jaden Daniels and like $300 of fab. Incredible offer. It took me like 2 days to decline it because I was like, well, Jaden Daniels isn't that different from Josh Allen. And then I get fab, and who knows what that fab could be. God, I'm so glad I didn't take that trade. 342 pass yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 82 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I was on track to be eliminated. I was literally projected by far the worst. It was bad. Like I said, I started Kyle Pitts over Isaac Orendo. Brock Bowers is my tight end in this league. I'm also losing a lot of steam. Nico Collins on bye. CeeDee Lamb is my other wide receiver. I just lost Christian McCaffrey again. So I was like, this is it. It's over. And I said to my fiance at halftime, and I said, hey, can you just come here and say, Josh Allen, please score more points? And so we both did it. And good Lord, did Josh Allen score more points. And the lesson there is, if you're in a guillotine league, there's no other quarterback you want. It's Josh Allen. And I also want to pat myself on the back. And I've got to find this quote graphic because I think it's my best take ever. My best take ever. I'm going to find it right now. Because a lot of people this offseason were like, you know, you got to get Dalton Kincaid. You got to get Keon Coleman, you know. And I said, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I definitely don't want Dalton Kincaid. I probably don't want Keon Coleman. And the only way I'm taking these players is if I got Josh Allen and I'm just looking for a stack in best ball. Because otherwise, there is one alpha in Buffalo, and his name is Josh Allen. There is one alpha in Buffalo, and his name is Josh Allen, and that's why you just take him. That is just why you take him. So that is one of my favorite quote graphics in player profiler history. Probably my favorite take. Oh, did I? Probably one of my favorite takes ever. Yeah. Shout out Josh Allen. And again, back to the Guillotine League. Isaac Orendo, league winner. Please be okay. Please be okay. Because I do have Isaac Orendo in that team. I benched him for Kyle Pitts because I'm a dumb idiot. But 2 touchdowns, 2 receptions, 50 yards, 78 yards rushing as well. Over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. You take that. You take that every single day of the week. Shout out Isaac Orendo. Hopefully he's okay. Because that was awesome. That was awesome. And that is like, again, another take that I was really firm on that was probably wrong, but has become right, was don't get Jordan Mason. Why do you want Jordan Mason? Isaac Orendo as juice. And holy shit, was I wrong for the first half of the season. But right now, as long as he's okay, we're right. And that's all that matters. And that was always the thesis. It was always, we care about the second half of the season more than we do about the first. because we should make the playoffs. Unfortunately, I didn't, apparently. I should have paid more attention. I thought I had already clinched in that league, so I didn't actually pay attention at all this week. Oops. I didn't make the playoffs in a single Wake and Take Invitational league. So it seems that I have helped my audience too much. In fact, I might be too truthful in my takes. Am I too truthful in my takes, guys? Like, am I too helpful? Because you guys are kicking my ass. I'm in last place in Wake and Take Best Ball 1. Apparently, I missed the playoffs in Wake and Take Best Ball 2, which I thought I made them. That was a good team. And then in the 32-team league, I made a really horrible strategy, to be honest. But, man. Yeah, I shout out you guys. Honestly, Wake and shout out you guys for kicking my ass. Seriously. Next year, I'm going to tame down my takes, apparently. Just kidding. No, that's why you guys like me, right? Anyway, another take that I was right on. Roma Dunze, baby. And it's like, God, like, can I stop being right? It hurts being right all the time. Roma Dunze, guys, 42 yards, 2 touchdowns, only 5 targets. Now, I'm not going to lie. I don't think that this is, like, repeatable, at least, like, consistently. Over his career, yes, I am going to go ahead and take the L. I'm going to take the L and say that my take that Roma Dunze would end up being the alpha this year was wrong. But he's still a stud, and so we'll take a half W. A V, if you will. Is a V a half W? I think so. So we'll take a V for Roma Dunze being a stud. However, DJ Moore still very good. Keenan Allen still very good. In fact, let's see. Bears 2024 stats. Where are we at? I always like when, like, I could have spent all morning preparing this, but instead I'm just going to Google it while I'm live. So receiving right now, yeah, it's DJ Moore. It's DJ Moore. 712 yards in his 13 games, 104 targets to Roma Dunze in second, which actually I think my take was at worst he'd be the wide receiver 2. So I guess worst case scenario happened. 585 yards, 81 targets, 45 receptions. Almost neck and neck with Keenan Allen. And to be fair, Keenan Allen has played 2 less games. But we're going to take it. Roma Dunze, awesome. Roma Dunze is a stud. Who's not a stud? And how can I make this another Jason victory lap? Quentin Johnston. This offseason, I said, as much as I hate to say it, I think we should be buying Quentin Johnston. At least if you can get him cheap. Because I'm a coach guy. I've said this time and time again. A good coach makes the world of a difference. And my take on Quentin Johnston in particular was 100% right. It was. He's going to have games. You're not going to know when to start them. Now, this one you knew when to start him because Ladd McConkey was out. But all season, it's been a random spike week that he's probably been on your bench for. But thankfully, if you bought Quentin Johnston, those spike weeks on your bench has elevated his fantasy value. It has. And this game in particular has as well a touchdown on primetime, stepping up with no Ladd, 23% target share. Just know that as people start to get more invested in this Chargers offense, which again, another one that I was like, why was Justin Herbert QB 18? That was the one I was most mad about. I was like, what are we doing? Like, Justin Herbert's an incredible quarterback. Even if he sucks, he's still like a top 10 quarterback. And so on this show, we were heavily investing in this Chargers offense, especially Justin Herbert, but even down to Quentin Johnston. And it's playing out exactly as I expected it to. And so now's the time to take your Quentin Johnston and sell him. It's time to sell Quentin Johnston. We have waited this long. Now's the time. Ladd McConkey's the alpha. His best games are without Ladd McConkey or when you don't expect it, and so he's on your bench. And those are the exact type of assets we don't want on our team. Other players in your league, they can have him. Take him. I don't care because I've got enough damn headaches in my own life to worry about, is this the week that Quentin Johnston's going to take a screen to the house? Not for me. Not for me. No. So it's time to sell Quentin Johnston because people are starting to sell themselves. Okay, wide receiver 2, Justin Herbert, Jim Harbaugh, AFC West becoming a shootout division. Everyone, you can hear it now. You can hear it now. So in fact, maybe there's more room to grow, but I think now's fine because Ladd McConkey probably comes back next week. So it's probably we don't see this again. Maybe we do again. That's the thing. Maybe we do, but we didn't expect it. And he was on our bench. So sell him. In fact, research time. Where's he at on Keep Trade Cut? I'll give you a few options. This I definitely should have done earlier. I should have, because I wrote in my sheet sell, right? I should have come up with some sell options. So that I'm going to be mad at myself for, but hey. Okay. Got to refresh Keep Trade Cut, actually. Never mind. It doesn't want to work. I'm trying my phone. Sorry, guys. What a show this morning. I don't think we've had a show like this in a long time. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Y'all are awesome. Seriously. I know I'm mad at you guys for kicking my ass in every invitational league, but, I kind of feel a little proud about it. A little proud. Let's see. He's not top 50. Why does this keep happening? He is 55. Holy shit. Holy shit. You could take, theoretically, you could take Quentin Johnston right now. Here's everyone within 10. Rashid Shaheed, Calvin Ridley, Adonai Mitchell, Devontae Adams, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, Demario Douglas, Wan'Dale Robinson. Those are all fine options. In fact, I am very partial to that Stephon Diggs option in particular. I think that Stephon Diggs is very, very acquirable right now. And I will be the first to say right now in 2024, December 9th, Stephon Diggs is not done. We will still see Stephon Diggs next season. So if you are halfway contending and you have Quentin Johnston, knock on that Stephon Diggs owner's door. In fact, I bet you could get a plus. I bet you could get a plus, and I just think that's hilarious. So sell Quentin Johnston while you can. And lastly, this is quick. Rob, if you're watching, I'm sorry. Oh, God. Yeah, Twitter. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. I gotta get this overlay off.
For the Chiefs.
What is this? Seriously. What is this?
For the division. For the Chiefs.
Only the damn Chiefs can win the game and the division on a doink from their third string kicker. I mean, they can't keep getting away with this. They just can't keep getting away with this. I'm so mad. I'm tired of it. And they won't keep getting away with it. I know it. The Bills are winning the Super Bowl. Go ahead and put your tickets out now. The Josh Allen engagement year is here. The Josh Allen dominance is here. I know the Chiefs are winning all these close games, but the luck will run out at some point. Luck is a finite resource, and they've got to be using all of it up at some point. At some point, this thing's got to dry up. And it's going to happen at some point. They just can't keep getting away with this. Everyone, I would love to answer questions, but we've gone too long. I think I answered some questions while going live. So make sure you tune in tomorrow. 10 a.m. Eastern, we'll be talking waivers, I guess. It's always tough to talk waivers this time of year, but there's a few players we'll talk. Maybe got to start brainstorming, right? We got to get creative. It's playoffs. But anyway, hit that like button, hit the subscribe, and make sure you tune in tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern for some more Wake and Take. You all have a magnificent Monday, a fantastic rest of your week, and may all your Monday night miracles come true. Peace.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.